In this lesson we're going to look at the piano for task 1A. The piano only really happens in the last 8 bars, so there's not really too much to do. There's a couple of complex bits that you have to kind of pay attention to though. So let's just have a little look at this piano part on the score. So the first thing is on the top treble clef, you'll notice that they're just simple arpeggio patterns. And in the bottom bass clef, you'll notice that they're octave spreads. So the top note and the bottom note are the same note, just an octave apart. So the chord sequence for this is the first note is F sharp. So the actual note on the piano roll would be F sharp 1 for this top one and F sharp 0 for this bottom one. Okay, and then the next chord would be C sharp minor. The next chord would be D major, lasting for 2 bars. Then we've got F sharp minor again. Then we've got C sharp minor again. And then finally, we've got B minor. Okay, so the respective notes that you would need: F sharp, C sharp, D carrying on for 2 bars, F sharp, C sharp, and B carrying on for 2 bars. Okay, so let's float over to the sequencing panel. Now, I just want to show you guys a neat little trick. Something that I do quite a lot if I'm copying parts, especially arpeggios, because they're quite a pain to copy, especially if you're typing them in. A good way of copying arpeggios, after typing the first one, I'll get my arrow tool and I would select a whole bar of arpeggios. And on the Mac, I would press Command C for copy. On the PC, I would press Control C. Once you've pressed Command C, you can put your playhead wherever you want the next ones to go. So here on bar 97, I've put my playhead. Now, if I press Command V or on the PC Control V, I'm going to paste a copy there. Now, for arpeggios, this is fantastic because it's going to remember what you've just copied. So you can change all these around until you get the right arpeggio. And once you get all the right arpeggios, sorry, it's a bit rubbish, but once you get all the right arpeggios sorted out, you can then come to this next bar and the playhead's already in the right place, and you can press Command V again and paste another one in, and then just move the notes around until you get the actual right notes. So that's a delete that, sorry about that. That's a nice little tip for copying them. The other way of copying, as we discussed in previous lessons, is to select them all and press Alt and then click and drag. Okay, and that effectively does the same thing, but the benefit of doing copy paste is that they will go into place of where the playhead is. Let's undo that one then. Okay, so as you can see, these are the notes. It's quite a massive spread on the piano. So the top notes in the treble clef, you've got this A3 all the way up to F sharp 4. You've got this kind of range there, and it is really important when you're kind of doing all this stuff to make sure that you do get all the note input right and all the octaves right. Okay, and on the bottom line you can see these intervals. Now once again, it is only for this last part. It's very similar to the harp sound, but for some reason it is just on the piano for this. And remember, you will have to do a nice fade out on this part. Okay, so don't forget the fade out, which starts at about bar 93. Okay, the sound that we've used is just a preloaded sound. Now, I'm not using the one that I would really like to use because I didn't find that there was enough control on it. But I'll show you the one that sounds almost identical, but if I wanted to adjust it, it's just a little bit more difficult. If you come to pianos and then click on grand piano and pads, it's spot on. So if you wanted something that's spot on, you don't need to edit too much, go for this one. The one that I've gone for is this Yamaha grand piano. Now the Yamaha grand piano is done in the EXS24, which is their sampler. The benefit of this is if I need to change it, I can. And I did a little bit of changing. So from the Yamaha, I actually come up here and I change the preset a little bit further by going into the Steinway piano. And it wasn't quite what I wanted, so I've had to kind of change the reverb settings, which is on bus 2 and 6. I've just heightened the reverb settings a little bit, and I probably will make it a little bit brighter using the cutoff and resonance. At the moment, I'm okay with that, so I'm just going to leave that. The other thing is it's quite low in the mix. I've brought the mixer down, and finally I've also just panned it ever so slightly off to the left. Okay, so listen to the actual original track and just make sure that is the case. I might do a bit of EQ. If I can't brighten it up enough using the cutoff and the resonance, I might come into the EQ and just put a little bit of brightness on that one. And finally, let's just have a listen to the sound so you can do a little bit of compare and contrast. So once again, we're just going to solo the actual track, and we're going to make sure all the rhythms are in properly. So once again, I've looped this area that the actual part's happening on. I'm looking at the piano, so I'm looking at the notes that I've input, but I'm playing this track. So here we go.
I found a way to block it, I go.
And what I'm looking for there is just any mistakes in rhythm and pitch. It all looks pretty good. I had a little bit of a look at this note here, which I wasn't overly happy with. So what I might do with this note is just use my velocity tool and just bring it down ever so slightly. It kind of shot out of the mix, and when you listen to this song, it doesn't really do that. So let's put this one in mute. Now let's listen to what we've got on this track. Just compare it. So you can hear it's okay, it's almost there, but it's not completely right. Whereas if you, have a listen to this. This is the one I want to use, but once again, there's no control settings for this, so it's patched into bus 12, and there's nothing you can do with that apart from change the reverb, EQ, and compression of it. But have a listen to this. I like this sound.
To block it, I go.
You know what? It's too good. I'm just going to leave it on that one. It's much better. Okay, so we're only looking at 8 bars, so get those inputted, and then we're going to move on to the strings next. Okay, see you in the next lesson.